Hello, everyone, and welcome to an Operation Meteor briefing. This time we are talking about the new Gundam Assemble game that is coming out here in 2027. I had the privilege of playing this demo at Bandai Card Games Fest in Las Vegas over the past weekend, and I wanted to share what I have with you to maybe give you a chance to play the game at home. This is not a definitive rule listing. These were just demos just to get us used to some of the mechanics in the game, and everything is subject to change. I also included certain sections for all of you, so that way if you've never heard of Gundam Assemble, you can start right here. If you want to see the rules, you can fast forward to that piece, and if you already know about the rules and the game, then you can switch over right to the gameplay mechanic while trying to walk us through a series of play. Thank you for your time, and I hope you guys enjoy this video on Gundam Assemble. So let's start with, what is Gundam Assemble? It's a new miniature game being produced by Bandai, taking place in the Gundam universe. You'll be setting up your own faction of 3 units in small skirmishes, or competing in scenario battles using 5 versus 5 units, which may actually include large ship battles in some of them. Your objective is to accrue as many victory points as possible by defeating enemy units, rescuing or defeating garrisons on the map, capturing prime objectives, completing scenario goals, and using tactical cards strategically. This game uses a timeline track, which we'll get to later on as we move through it. Last year, when the Gundam card game was released, we ended up getting some deluxe starter deck sets that came with various figures that came with this game. In our beginnings, we ended up receiving one RX-78-2 Gundam, a gun cannon, and a gun tank. Wings of Events included 2 different Leo's mobile suits and Litologis, while Zeon Rush included 2 different Zaku's, along with Char Zaku's commander type. Seed Strike was the last one of this set, giving us access to the Sword, Launcher, and Ale Strike versions of the Strike Gundam, and the Sky Grasper as a support unit. Coming up on February 27th, we'll be getting 2 additional sets to add to Gundam Assemble units in the game. The first one will feature those from the G-Quux series, including the G-Fred, Red Gundam, and the G-Quux with its Psycho Combat system. And from Iron-Blooded Orphans, we'll get the Gundam Barbatos in its 4th form, a Grace Custom, and the CGS Mobile Worker. These will not be the only sets available to players as the game launches, as there will be a starter set, a deluxe set, and various expansions that will be coming along to allow players to step into the game without needing to purchase their other ones. Included in this collection, you'll also be given terrain pieces to set up your maps, the various tokens you'll need to play, and various other key pieces such as command cards, rule sets, and your timeline tracker. Additionally, if your Gundam series was not featured yet, do not despair. Units like the Epion Gundam, the Gundam Vidar, and others have been teased in various capacities, and their models appearing in different venues such as Bandai Card Games Fest, Gen Con, and other places. Even units from movies such as Gundam Seed Freedom, we saw the Mighty Strike Freedom as part of that. Alrighty, and with that, the objective of the goal is pretty simple. You're trying to accrue as many victory points as you can by defeating enemy units, rescuing garrisons, capturing the objectives, scenarios, which we talked about. Additionally, there isn't really anything set in stone yet about how the game ends. As I was going to say, we were at the demo, they didn't say anything about finishing the game by capturing every objective, or proposed time frame is 40 turns, and then when you're at the end of 40 turns, one with the most victory points. I wasn't given clear stuff, and I've been just hearing from what other people were saying at the demo may have heard. So just to know, you can do some hellish rules. So if you feel like if you're holding up all the objectives in the scenario I'll present to you guys for a full turn, you win the game. Or if you want to do the 40 turn goal to where once you've exhausted 40 turns, the person with most victory points wins, you can do that as well. since we don't have the rules for it yet, which I should mention that we're getting more information on this on March 4th. I'll remind you the various parts of that more information is to come. So, what do you need to play Gundam Assemble? One, you're going to need units. You're going to need to at least have minimum 3, and you'll need their tableau cards. I will provide some resources so you can see what you can set up with. Those tableau cards are going to include, they're called a unit card. They'll include how much HP a unit has, what victory points are worth, what place on the timeline they start, what weapons they have to attack with, any additional abilities. For today's demo, I have access to the Earth Federation's RX-78-2 Gundam, Gun Cannon, Gun Tank, and from the Principality of Zeon, we have Zaku 2, a Zaku 2 Enforcer type, and a Zaku 2 Linebreaker. You'll need various tokens to play this game, so make sure that you have the following. You're going to need minimum 4 objective markers. You'll need a handful of garrison bases, which will count out on the map. Additionally, we'll have upgrade tokens featuring strength, shield, speed. We have status tokens, which include the status effects of slow, fracture, and disarm. You may want to also set aside some energy tokens, 10-sided dice, which you'll need for your attack rolls, something straight edge like a laser pointer or something, because you will be doing line of sight based on the middle of your hex to the middle of the other one to determine if you have line of sight. Terrain markers that can designate between height 1 and height 2, which we'll get into a little bit. Also, if you want to do something fancy like create water tokens, that is a feature in this game as well. And additionally, you'll need 9 command cards that will be randomly shuffled and drawn as you play the game. Alright, so I'm going to disappear real fast and bring over our map stuff real quick. Shout out to Black Luigi. They took all the pictures and kind of put a nice thing. I'll share that information so that way you can have access to it as well, so that way you can take a look and see at the stuff. But let me go ahead and disappear real quick. Perfect. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this map. So this is very important because as you set up the scenario, you'll see that we have various tokens. These gray ones right here are objective tokens. You'll need a minimum of 4. You'll need upgrade tokens, which at random will have 1 of the strength indicators. These garrison maps, 1 for the red team, 1 for the blue team. And yeah, that's about it. So this is how the map works. It's a 15 by 15 hex setup. And the reason why I couldn't really do this in person is that, as you can see, we have varying heights. We have a height 2 in the middle, and then we have a height 1, and I don't have anything to do this cleanly to do that. So we'll take a look in the video and show you how that works. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the map rules, or the rules of the game, and how to read this. So let's go ahead and start. Start by reading our tablet cards. So here's a unit card. We'll pull up the one, just to make sure we're on the same page, we'll pull up the one here in the Google Drive, and we'll read the Earth Federation's Gundam card. So in the top right corner, this is the base HP. Once your unit meets or exceeds this number, it is out of commission. It does not mean that the unit is destroyed for the rest of the game. We are not entirely sure how you redeploy that unit. If you want to use the house rule that they just redeploy on their timeline on the next go around, you can with their full HP. When a unit is defeated, this is how many victory points is earned. So when you defeat the Gundam, you get 5. Honorary and Earth Federation are trait tags, which will go along with your combat cards. And then this is the attack. So this means that this cost is you must move down 2 tracks on the timeline to use it. It is only good within 1 hex of itself. It will deal 2d10 worth of damage. After an attack roll, destroy 1 shield, upgrade on target. When you roll a 9 or a 10, you get this critical trait, which we'll talk more on the dice roll. It means you'll gain a strength token. Additionally, the RX-78 secondary weapon is a beam rifle, which will cost you 4 spaces on your tracker, but you can target up to 4 spaces in front of you in a straight line. This will deal 5 d10s worth of damage. When you roll a 9 or a 10, you will deal an additional 2 pieces of damage. Down here, we have the ability skills. These abilities are possessed by a unit. If the energy is noted like it is here, you will need to obtain an energy charge in order to use it. So you can't use this command without it. This ongoing effect means that at all times, you may go ahead and use this. So new type of instincts after an attack roll, if this unit is attacking, and re-rolls 1 miss. So same thing with the gun tank, it has the same thing. HP, VP, where it stacks on the timeline. You know, pretty much all self-explanatory at this point. Note that the line of sight means straight line. I'm trying to see. Go back to the unit curves. Look at Xeon real quick. So the Enforcer Zaku has basically a 1 range attack. The Line Breaker, same thing. And Sharisaku. So same thing, we've got HP victory points, timeline, yada yada. So that's how you read the unit cards. Now let's go ahead and talk about tactics cards. So the tactic cards is going to be a deck that you'll have on the side. After shuffling the cards and placing a deck, you'll draw the first 3 cards from your hand. You do not show your cards to your opponent. And then you'll draw 3 cards at the start of phase 2. So we only played through 2 phases, but if you end up playing through 4, I would assume that you would just keep drawing to refill that. This is the timeline track. I want to bring in a special note here, because this is huge. So the timeline track starts at 1, ends at 10. Let's say that you're right here and your attack or ability costs you 2. So you're going to move your token from left to right 2. If another unit matches you, then it's first in, first out based on who was there on the track. When you go past 10, you continue going. So let's say that you had an attack that you were at track 9 and it cost 3. You go 1 to 10, you flip over and you go to 2, and then you wait until every unit has gone past 10, and then you go to the next phase, start of the phase, and then you keep progressing. The unit with the lowest timeline takes its turn. In the case of the same timeline value, choose a unit from the side that did not have the most recent turn. Proceed through actions such as attack, dash, energize, rescue. A turn cannot finish without advancing the timeline, which means you must take an action. A phase is completed once the timeline has gone through once, which is 10 rounds. So let's talk about terrain next. So this is very important, as this game does have terrain. We're going to make sure that when you're moving to a higher hex, you're going to use 1 additional movement for each level of the elevation change. The attacking unit from a greater height gets a -1 penalty to their accuracy, while attacking units from a lower height incurs a +1 accuracy. I do not understand that, because my opinion is that if you have the higher ground, you have better accuracy because you have better vantage points, but in this game, I guess we're doing it the opposite. During a turn that begins in a water area, 1 additional movement is consumed. So if you have 3 movement, you only get 2. When a unit in water attacks, and occurs a -1 penalty to accuracy. And when attacking a unit located in a water area, the attacker incurs a -1 penalty to accuracy. This one makes a little bit more sense to me. So why would you ever move to water? It could be a scenario on the map. There's also opponent effects that will put you in water from a push effect. So it might be you're on the shore of a lake and someone, punts you into the water. You could end up being in water at the start of your turn, which is a negative effect. You talked about how to gain victory points, capturing the key objectives. If the total number of ally units on or adjacent to a hex containing an objective is greater than the number of enemy units in the same area, the objective is deemed captured. If the objective remains captured by the end of the game, that faction earns the designated points. So it doesn't seem like winning all the objectives, at least in this scenario, wins you the game, but it does net more points. Status effects. So certain abilities will disarm, fracture, or slow down the opponent. One time only means that it's on the next move or the next time the thing happens. So on disarm, when making the next attack roll the attack dice, then re-roll any dice that scored a hit. Critical effects are not triggered. Once this has happened, you remove the disarm token from that enemy's card. Same thing with fractured. If you take 3 or more damage in a single attack, receive 3 additional damage. So once you're already fractured once, you don't keep it on you. And then on slow, on the next turn, your basic movement cannot be used. That being said, once you go past that, your move token keep going. The upgrade tokens that you see on the field will be a random strength, shield, or speed. When you complete a move or dash onto a hex with an upgrade token, immediately reveal the token and place it on the unit's unit card. The unit will have an upgrade for attack, movement, or shield display for the rest of the game. The effects of the upgrade token last until the game ends and persist even if the unit is destroyed. So in the event that your unit is actually destroyed, you can actually keep fighting as long as you're able to. Okay, so when they talk about moving on to a token, you'll see that some of these hexes have this upgrade token on them. So once you land on it, you're going to land on it with your unit. You're going to reveal, it's going to reveal one of these 3 effects. You're looking at the shield, which negates the damage, speed, which allows you 1 additional movement, I believe, and then strength adds 1 more damage to your attack rolls. So these are permanent. There's a few debuffs that can remove shield, reduce speed, and reduce strength, but all in all, you basically have to go out of your way to remove a token otherwise. Okay, and then with that, let's go ahead and see what else we need to talk about regarding the rules here. Okay, so basically you're going to be able to perform 1 of 4 things during your turn. Your movement. You can move a total of 3 hexes. Zoom in on this a bit. You can move to 3 hexes. You cannot pass through hexes occupied by enemy units, garrisons, or enemy objectives. It is possible to pass through hexes occupied by ally units. You can use a primary action. You perform actions B1, 2, or 3, or 4. You can attack with a weapon that's listed on your card. You can dash, which allows you to move 2 additional hexes. You can energize, that will allow you to create an energy token, which is this guy, and then rescue a allied garrison in an adjacent hex and get 2 victory points. You can also use an ability on your card. So like, for example, you can use Char's dash attack, or you can use, Amuro's energy for the coordination. And then finally, you can use one of the tactics cards. You can only use 1 card per turn, and an individual tactics card cannot be used if one was already used in response to the opponent's attack. So let's go and take a look back at the unit card, or the command cards here. If we look at Earth Federation, and we look at this card, again, this is not the final product, but we can do that. So you have to be an Earth Federation unit, and then your unit gains 1 HP for each upgrade on it. So basically, if you had a strength and a shield, you gain 2 HP back. Earth Federation still, after an attack roll, an ally unit is dealt -2 damage, so going to negate a huge hit. This one's only for the gun tank. Gun tank gains a shield upgrade and captures an objective it is on or adjacent to, so pretty nice to have. Forward artillery. This gun cannon gains an energy, and it gains +1 strength for each turn. Each garrison, it gains +1 strength this turn for each garrison you rescued. So if you have 3 garrisons, you get +3 strength, which means you get to deal some extra damage. And you can only use one of these per turn, and you're only going to get 3 of them at the start of phase 1 and start of phase 2. So that is another action you are allowed to take during your turn for the tactics card. Okay, so this is where the game gets a little tricky. It's the attack sequence. So they're going to, on your unit, select an attack. So to make sure we're on the same page here. Oops, sorry, not the commands, really the unit cards. So let's take the gun cannon, for example. You either choose its beam rifle or shoulder cannons. Then you're going to deduct your cost by moving your token on the timeline track down 3. Make sure you have an area range that's in 3 of, and then once you have selected a target, you will roll 4 d10 dice. What you will do is that when attacking at a range of 2 or more, check if you have a line of sight, which we'll get to in a second. And then if the line of sight is clear, you pay the timeline cost of your attack. Then we will roll. So if you have, let's say, an attack of 3, you'll roll 3 d10s. If you roll a 4 or higher, you will deal 1 damage per dice that's higher. 9 or 10, you will apply the critical effect that's on your weapon. If you roll a 1, you miss the attack regardless of any accuracy modifiers. And then finally, determine the number of hits at critical effects and deduct the shield to calculate damage. So let's say that you roll 3 dice. You roll a 3, that's a miss. Or so you roll this 1, it's a miss. This 4 hits, this 8 hits. But if they have a shield, you will only deal 1 damage as the shield absorbs an attack. So this is what will get a lot of folks, is that this line of sight check. This is why it's important to have the right size for the hexes. And I'll show you a little bit more details when it comes to these hexes a little bit, because their size matter. Because essentially, let's say that this pillar's in the middle of these two, like this picture here. You do not have line of sight. Really, line of sight. So that means your attack will not work. This higher unit has a line drawn from the center of the Gundam's hex to the Sharazaku 2. It passes through the hex with a higher elevation, so it's determined that there's no line of sight for the Gundam side. However, from Sharazaku 2 side, the imaginary line passes the train at a lower elevation than the attacker and does not pass through any hexes of the same elevation or higher. In this case, the line of sight is clear. And I'll let you guys kind of read through the rest of this. This is another reverse thing. So like, let's say there's an elevation hex. Well, as long as you have a straight line that can go through the middle of your guys' hexes, that is still an okay attack. Whereas this one, there's something between you don't have line of sight. So those are the rules. So let's go ahead and take a look at some stuff here. So this is what the hex kind of looks like a little bit here. So basically what we're looking at in terms of how this works is that you slide one half into the other and then you put the hex on there. So it allows you to try to stand it up a little bit. Okay, and this is what the top of our hex looks like. We're pretty much at the point where I put a quarter in the middle. Someone was able to deduct that with this quarter in the middle from this edge to, or from that point to this point, your line in the middle ends up being a 1.75 inch mark. So you can kind of figure out the calculations based off of that. Okay, so this is where we talk about elevation a little bit more. So as we look at this picture here, this is pretty much ground floor. It doesn't have an elevation here. Right next to Zaku is this pillar here, this platform. This is elevation 1, which means that in order to move up here, you need to always have one movement to up on here, and compared to what you need. And then up to this one, that's an elevation 2. So essentially, if you were right here and you were trying to shoot this, that imaginary line would not pass the check and you would not be able to fire. But yeah, I mean, as long as you can do that, I mean, I want to say that these Gundam units will have to get the actual measurement out, but essentially as tall as, I want to say, the Saku to here is about what we want to see regarding, how big the elevation is between the two. Okay, so at Bandai Card Games Fest, this was the scenario that we ran through. We'll watch a video from one of our community members that was so kind to put up their video footage on there. We were given this Operation Sleeping Leviathan. Mission location was in East Africa. Mission details are as such. Intelligent reports enemy mobile suits advancing on the location of an abandoned coastal fortress, intent on breaching its walls and securing a powerful weapon with them. Control of the weapon will give the enemy control of the surrounding ocean and tip the balance of power in their favor. All available forces are to advance on the fortress immediately to secure key defensive positions and prevent enemy incursion. We cannot allow the weapon to fall into enemy hands. So with that, we'll go ahead and take a look here. So basically, this is part of the demo. They're a little bit into it a bit. This is from the channel that is MastersTeachingsTCG. And they're playing the Zaku Xeon faction. So what they're doing is that they're going to take whatever actions that they need, pay for it on the track, so they're paying 2. And then they're going to go in and claim the garrison. So by claiming that garrison, they're going to be awarded 2 victory points that is going to be used to figure out the winner at the end of the game. Right next to them, they're also next to Objective Tracker 3. So that is one of the objectives. If they are the only one in the vicinity and it's not contested, then they technically claim ownership of that objective track, and they get to score that on their victory point. So let's see here. They kind of had us all making sure that we went one step at a time. So they're going to go ahead and grab their 2 victory points for capturing the garrison, which is an action you can take on your turn. And now they should also be a contestation for claiming that 3rd mission objective. They're showing them on total map. You can see 1 is on the right side. I believe 4 was on the left side. So they're now going to claim that 3rd token. So you can see all the... Yeah, there you go. So there's the 3rd. So they're going to put it down there, and now we know that Objective 3 has been claimed by the red team, which will be used to come up with points at the end of the game. Let's take a look at combat real quick, because they did do some combat. So basically what they did was early on, they moved... So they basically are moving their RX-78 Gundam into range of that Zaku. And then they have line of sight on it. And then they're going to end up using their beam saber, which is going to cost them 2 on the track, and it will allow them to roll 2 dice to deal damage. So we'll go ahead and roll some dice to deal damage with the beam saber. So that 2's a miss, but they're going to use their ongoing effect to re-roll that miss. Yeah, that's on the tableau. So instead of missing, that effect should allow them to re-roll that. No wait for the judge. So very important to read your units cards, because otherwise it would only deal 1 damage, but now is the opportunity to swing for 2.
So let's fast forward a little bit here. Okay, so it looks like they didn't get that result. So essentially, you could reroll that, deal 2 damage to the Zaku, and you put out your tableau. And then at any point, as long as you meet the requirements on the command cards, you're allowed to play 1 command card per turn. After combat damage, if the defending LA unit survives the attack, it deals 2 damage to the attacker using the Shattered Formation card. As long as you have a Xeon trait, you can use that. So this would be the 1 card during this turn that they could use to deal damage back to the RX-78. And with that, that's kind of it. That's pretty much the bread and butter of the game. It's a lot of just trying to get the mechanics down at first, and then you can try to do things like go after the objectives and everything else. Essentially, the hardest part is trying to get that line of sight down. I know that watching from a 2D perspective, it's very difficult to get the idea of how the line of sight works. But if you're able to find those, then you should be able to pretty much get that to where you can get the right height elevation, so that way you can draw that straight line up. And then let's say that, you know, you can't see that unit from your perspective down, then you're into that. Some other rules that don't come up in the rule sheet that I should explain to you is the engagement rule. That RX-78 Gundam that we saw that was attacking the Zaku, it's engaged with that enemy, meaning that you have to take a disengagement action movement to get out of there in order for you to attack something different. The rule that I understood when I played was that you must attack the opponent that you're engaged with or the closest unit next to you. So you have to take care of that before you can attack a different character. Even if you have line of sight on something else, if you're already engaged with one in front of you, you have to deal damage to it. Again, units aren't destroyed when their HP is down to 0. There was no clear rule on when a unit got deployed. We did the house rule of if it was destroyed, then it would just get redeployed on its next turn. Sorry, on the next phase, on the timeline that we're brought back on. Hopefully we'll get some better rules to clarify when a unit comes back and go from there. Second thing is the push rule. There are certain units that can push other units into different hexes, like I stated. If you cannot go back because it's a flat terrain and you end up running into a wall or another unit, you take 1 point of damage for not being able to complete that push effect. And that's pretty much all I've got for you guys. I mean, I enjoyed that demo pretty well. Like I said, there was no real way of resolving the game. I was told by some folks that they thought they heard that the judges say you play up to 40 turns or 4 phases, and then you count the points afterwards. Obviously, destroying all the folios doesn't work. Capturing all the objectives doesn't in the game as of right now. Do know that these are subject to change, and kind of go on from there. With that, I don't really have much else to add to the conversation other than I will put the links for the Google Drive so you can print out your own Tableau sheets. You can try setting up your own board at home if you don't want to mess with the terrain effects and you just want to be on a level playing field. Just try that for now, so that way you can at least get the basics of how the game works. And then, like I said, MastersTeachingsTCG, just give them a like, at least a minimum, to thank them for at least putting the video on there. Watch the whole thing through. It might help you understand the game as well. And with that, I've got nothing else for you guys. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll get more information here on March 4th. Again, the next 2 sets released here next week on the 27th. And with that, we'll hopefully have some more fun here in the upcoming months. I'm planning on covering more of Gundam Assemble. I really like the fact that there's a new miniature game that won't cost me an arm and a leg. I will tell you that Gundam Assemble does have its own line of paints. So if you want to wait for the official paints to come out, there's like a Shars red, Federation blue and stuff like that. It actually says Gundam Assemble on it. So if you want to wait for the official paints, you can. Otherwise, any paint that works on plastic models should be sufficient as well. With that, let me know if you have any comments or concerns or questions about it. I'll try to answer them to the best of my abilities. And with that, that's all I have for you guys. Have a good one. And this is Sal with Operation Meteor, signing off.